Hey guys, Boy here, and this is how pros play Naga. This video is an attempt to drop higher quality, high effort content in this channel only. If you like this, make sure to sub, comment, and like so I can figure out the right direction for the channel while I keep trying to cast and get into the Dota scene. Naga is not a hero most people play, and thus will start kinda slow, but I don't think this video is only tailored for people not familiar with Naga. As you can see, this hero is not very popular, but her win rate, even the global win rate that should be ass since this hero is kinda hard to play, is 53%. That's how good Naga is right now. Naga is a great position 1 and 2. In the mid lane, she can benefit from the burst of experience since that's what really enables this hero, but she does have a couple of hard matchups, and most of the time I would suggest only running her middle if you have 10th pick, or you're sure the enemy middle already picked something that is not Timbersaw, or a hero that has a lot of AoE, can hunt you in the jungle, because you definitely need your illusions to be alive to do that. Your first kill point is 99% of the time mirror image. A snare, unless it gives you a kill, is useless in the lane stage, and sometimes, even if it can get you a kill, it might not be worth your time. The reason this hero is so good is the speed that it farms, with very few items beside Wraith Bands, and thus you want to look like this at level 8, to enjoy your farming power spike as fast as possible. The laning of Naga Siren is based on the damage advantage you have with mirror image. Advantage might be a stretch, but at level 1, you can go from your measly 45 base damage to about 70 damage after reductions without Quelling Blade, really increasing your potential in lane if you use it correctly. Even still, less hitting with illusion is rather hard, and don't sweat too much if you miss some CS at the beginning of the game, even pros do it all the time. This hero is better in 1 vs 1s than a lot of people give it credit for. Against heroes that have very little AoE in the first levels, it's very hard for them to identify the real you, and even if they try to take the illusions out, you can see how many attacks the Invoker has to perform to take one of the illusions, and since you deal 70 damage with them, you can get denies against ranged heroes and low damage ones. Lone Druid is another example of a no AoE damage hero that usually wins a lot of lanes because of his combined damage with the bear being insane, but Naga can actually do decently well against the hero in the first levels and then jungle once you have enough levels. You can also see that at level 2, you can trade fairly well. It's worth remembering that mirror image dispels you, meaning that stuff like Cold Snap and Laser don't work as well against you if you save the spell, and the dynamics around that allows you to lane better versus certain heroes. Item build is very straightforward. 95% of the times, the build is 3 Wraith Bands into Treads. mEracle is one of the few players that goes Travels, and we'll talk about his playstyle, but first, let me show you why me and a bunch of other insanely high MMR players love Treads. First of all, check the difference in DPS. Let's consider this 3 Wraith Band Naga with Treads. Her DPS at level 9 is 430 damage. A Naga with 2 Wraith Bands and Travels, which is actually more gold than the other one, has measly 300 DPS, and that's 43% less damage. And it's not only that, Treads is cheaper, meaning you start farming faster earlier. With Travels, you're farming at a slower pace until the item gets done, you can get killed, and the difference here is banking on the split push and global capabilities that Naga offers, which can work fine, but Treads is just an easy way to snowball quickly. Another thing that Treads gives you is bigger mana freedom earlier into the game. If you use mirror image on intelligence Treads, you can press the Treads button during the animation to go back to agility, meaning you get agility illusions while using intelligence Treads mana. The difference in how many extra mirror image casts you get is insane. In fact, once you're level 8, you're pretty much spending 30 mana for each mirror image cast, meaning you effectively get infinite mana for farming super early on, which is not the case with Travels. You obviously get the double TP thing that gives you mana sustain, but only after getting the 2000 gold for the item. Jungling is something this hero does ridiculously fast, and the usual time for safe lane Nagas to start jungling is around level 4 to 5. That second point in Riptide really increases your DPS with illusions, and at this time you want to have around 2 to 3 Wraith Bands without boots. The lack of boots is okay because you're usually traveling very short distances and your hero is already pretty fast, unless you have to shrine, but even then, you're gonna be Gucci. At this stage, you can farm most camps in groups of 2 and quickly go back to the lane to defend your tower. Mid lane is slightly different because you have medium camps close by, and you can pretty much jungle at level 2 since you have your Quelling Blade and you can farm with all of your illusions at the same time. You can see that mEracle pushes the lane here and quickly farms the camp without blocking, already starting to scale very early on. The farming patterns for Naga at the beginning of the game are quite simple. If you're mid and against a hero that doesn't push the lane very well, you can farm your lane and then the mid camps at all times pretty much. Note that mEracle makes sure he uses the illusions in the camp and goes back with them to the lane. You don't want to take unnecessary creep damage to farm this. This is easy to spot when he goes back for the center camp, this time having spent mirror image in lane. With mid Naga, you want to farm the most valuable camps that are close to you until you get boots and level 10 for the move speed talent, if you're going treads. Meaning that stealing this medium camp from your enemy mid is a quick and easy way to get an early edge against him. On the dire side, you don't have easy access to Roshan, and mEracle only steps foot on his ancients when he's level 10 with the move speed talent. On the Radiant side though, things are quite different. The ancients are way more accessible, and thus the Naga, after having boots and defending the tower against the catapult wave, can quickly start killing them every single time. It obviously requires more time, so he uses the 4 illusions, and he takes good care of them to use their duration to its full potential in the other camps. Besides that, you just want to make sure you're farming 2 camps at the same time, unless you're killing ancients and never taking any tower damage. If you're playing safe lane, the amount of jungling you can do definitely depends on how much AoE the offlane has. For instance, in this Excalibur game, they have so much AoE that he can barely clear the creep wave with the illusions because they die really quickly. You don't want to mirror image fully in the jungle, especially before the first catapult wave against the Beastmaster. Once the catapult threat is over, he sends a support to the lane and starts farming away because he doesn't want anyone messing with his illusions. This is another similar game in the sense that Naga couldn't keep the illusions alive in lane to push and farm nearby camps, so he left the lane with a support while he farmed the other part of the jungle. Once strats, wraith bands and level 8 are up, there is a very frequent pattern of farming that shows up. Camping a particular side of the map, ideally the enemies, because you're denying farm from them, whilst being away from their aggressive wards, whilst pushing waves without feeling afraid. Since we're talking about safe lane Naga, it's worth noting that you can harass melee heroes pretty well. Even at level 2, the fact that the illusions don't draw aggro allows Madara here to zone Beastmaster and his boar away, so he can get CS without any problems. Another trick relevant to the safe lane is the body block into kill. If you want to pull that off, it's nice that you have separate control groups for your illusions. Having one for all illusions is great and usually the norm, but to pull stuff like this off, it's nice to have one specific illusion selected. As you can see, you can have the illusion that spawns in front of you to always be the one selected by a keystroke. Mine is C, and by knowing that, you can always try to use your move speed advantage to body block and kill people with your Naga. Naga's items more often than not are set in stone. After travels or treads, you either get Diffusal Blade if you have kill potential on people, or Manta if you just feel like you have to farm or you're far behind, so the Diffusal Blade is not going to be useful. Diffusal Blade is 80% of the time the item that people pick up because it's a great mix of extra farming speed with kill potential on top of it. Also, when you have a good game and get an early enough Diffusal Blade, even heroes that sometimes wouldn't die to you can die just because of your insane level advantage over them. This Armel game is a great example of that. Razor, Tinker, and Juggernaut are not heroes you can usually run down with Diffusal Blade, but since Armel is 4 levels ahead of the Razor with almost maxed snare, even with Static Link he gets taken out. And this is what happens seconds after that. Naga is a weird hero in the sense that she struggles in teamfights sometimes, but when you can pick people apart, you can look like a god. 2 other tips I want to give in regards to Naga as a hero is to set your auto attack for minions as always. As you micro them around the map, having to go back to aggro them into camps or creep waves can lose you time and focus, and I think it's an easy way to optimize your play. On top of that, if you struggle microing the illusions around the map on top of having command groups, there's this pretty easy way to send them around. When you have only your main hero selected, pressing tab will shift you through every other unit you own, but it's not selected. So as soon as you use mirror image, without getting out of your hero, you can tab move an illusion, tab move another one to the same spot for instance to farm easily, since they also aggro automatically to whatever they find. A big difference between the Travels build and Treads is the level 10 talent. When you get travel, since you don't have the 20 attack speed from treads and the 10 agility, most players get the illusion damage talent to make up for their lack of damage for farming, since you already have so much move speed that the damage your illusions do become the bottleneck for how fast you farm and push waves. One of the last early game tricks to mention, but also kinda obvious, is always tanking with your illusions unless they're about to die. As a Naga, if you're only jungle, you should always be full HP since you have these tanky Nagas with you, and you always want your illusions to be full HP because they're gonna be harder to bring down, your enemy will get less gold, and all of that. Obviously, this guide has to offer a lot of set in stone rules to be able to fit in a video, but always try and mess with some of these guidelines and see what you think. For instance, in this crystallized game, he started saving the skill point at level 6 because the Shadow Fiend decided to rotate and that his Nair gives them a kill. He also gets a stick before the 3 Wraith Bands to lane better, and he did not die because of it. Always try out new things. This is a guide, and obviously I'm trying to condense things that are way more complicated than I'm portraying. So yeah, guys, thank you very much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. I'm not sure if you noticed, but the footage is now recorded in 1080p to give you better quality videos and casts. It was a hefty upgrade because I live in Brazil, so any support is greatly appreciated. You can check my Patreon rewards in the description. Follow me on Twitter if you want to participate in any videos, and join me on Twitch for the charity stream coming soon, as well as me playing Dotes and casting. If you're into Discord and Instagram, you can also find them below. Thank you very much for watching. It's a pleasure, and bye.